Doing some upper and lower ball joints on a 2002 four-wheel drive Chevy Silverado 1500 today. We're going to take this ABS wire off because this knuckle is going to be moved out of the way. Just taking the caliper off here. We're going to take the brake line bracket off too and then wire it up. Our first snap bolt of the job. This deal here has an indexing tab in it.
And I had lubed everything and I was going back and forth and I thought, oh, I got it free. And just a little bit, and I had shocked them, and all of a sudden, blink, broke. So tie wrap, I'll fix everything.
We're going to take this hub out and see if we can get this axle moved over or take the axle out so we can access that lower ball joint for pressing purposes.
Oh! So this is a deal where you guys that live down south and we see people taking stuff apart on Saturday morning shows. This was so rusted. I beat on this thing, you know, trying to turn it, and it was all rusted all in here. So I had to scrape that all out, and I put Never-Seez on it, and it just came out real easy this time.
We got a stanchion out, and we're going to preload this lower control arm so it doesn't come flying down when we separate this thing. Now it's preloaded.
See right there. Oh, easy. Wasn't too hard.
The ball joints are being replaced, so we're going to use a pickle fork here. We thread on some nuts so the knuckle doesn't fall to the ground. Oh God.
Oh, I was right at the end. I was tired.
Show him that hammer once, Paul. You can't do that with a finishing hammer.
Now, I'm setting this off to the side. And then this has to get out of the way. And then we can work on here and work on there.
We're looking for snap rings. We don't see any on the original ball joints. The new joints have grooves and rings that are going to be installed. Using a ball joint press.
We're not getting it all the way through, and this actually has a high point that it's hitting on one spot more than the other.
So we're shimming it with some washers to finish the job.
That's all it was a little bit.
This lower appears to have some tabs that were bent out, possibly to retain it.
Jeez.
The new ball joint has a boot that does not have to come off for the installation. And when you fill up with grease, it relieves out of this recess here. And it says right on it, mount inboard. So when we do it, we'll have it facing the inside of the truck. Here's our setup for pressing it back in.
Yeah, I was too weak. I couldn't do it. That's what's nice about being heavier. Bigger guys got more leverage. It looks like it's bottomed out now. That's it.
It doesn't look like this boot really comes off of here. And we're going to be pressing this up. One of our rings fits on it just good enough though where we can leave the boot in place. Mount inboard for the grease relief. We got kind of a goofy setup here. This ball joint is going to come past the control arm. So we used old race and some 1/4-inch plate for this press.
Previous to this, I scraped out all that rust that was in there, took a file and chamfered the hole. So we go in easier, and this one's a lot better. If you don't get it up high enough, you won't get the snap ring in the groove. That's what I wanted to have it pointed back this way. You don't ever want to over tighten these because they're weak. They're made out of cheap metal. Okay.
Okay, relax. Cotter pin installed.
I don't even know if I'm holding it.
The rest of this is pretty much putting it back together how it came apart.
So the last time I didn't have this tool, or I had a slide hammer with a hook and tried pulling, and I didn't have this device here, and I did it, and because I was changing it didn't matter, I was banging on it, it didn't come loose. I had to get a metal bar and try to rotate the unit bearing and get it loose. It kept soaking. It took me 2 days to get it, I started Friday night, and then on Saturday I got it finally loose, got it out. This might end up wrecking this unit bearing, but I don't know.
Yep.
Yes. That's how she does.
This is the washer. That sucks. Oh, your range. So not a good way to get your hub off if you want to save it.
I gotta get by your area. I'm wrecking the tin.
Yeah, that cut into the sheet metal pretty good. We're thinking about just pressing this back together and seeing what happens. It doesn't appear anything's damaged.
Right, you see, this is just like a toner ring. As this goes around, this tells, what the RPM of the wheel is. And then there's a bearing. And the seal is right there. I got this area clean. I think I'll glop some new grease on here. We'll push it back together, and you're going to see how somebody can really be cheap. So the way we figure, if it came apart, it goes back together, right? somebody had to put it together in the first place. Now I've heard of guys that said they didn't have to buy the whole unit bearing. They were just buying the bearing itself. You can see where I had to grind off the ears that were pressed down. There were 4 of them, and they mushroom out. So I ground them off first, and then I would pound through.
Looks pretty seated to me.
Shit, just touched it. All right, so it's done. It's on its wheels, and you know, if you know how to work on cars and unbolt stuff, you could do it, but you need the ball joint press, you need strong impact gun, a lot of patience, and you gotta have some strength. And I'm too old for this, man. I mean, the reason it costs so much is because it's a lot of hard work. It's a long job, and it tires you out. I'm glad it's over, but some guys say they've paid $1,500 to have it done.